Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Journaling Through Life. One of my favorite people in Australia, Emma Franklin Bell. She is an author of Write Your First Nonfiction Book. She is also a book coach. Emma, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Christine. I'm really thrilled to be here chatting with you today. It's going to be exciting, all things books and writing, and yeah, this is great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, you're so welcome. Now, Emma and I actually met. I did Emma's challenge for the week, a writing challenge, right? And that was incredible. So as always, we're going to put all of the links in the description below on how you can also join some of Emma's, programs and what she is up to. And at the end of the show, do stick around. We will also give you a little bit more about what Emma is about and how you can sign up for that. Now, Emma, you said everything writing, and it's my passion to journaling through journals, writing. Now, we are in a pandemic, unfortunately. And in your book, you mentioned that writing helps people understand life, understand their circumstances. Do you think that now is a perfect time for people to really start delving into their writing?
I think that writing at any time is the perfect time, and it's basically not forcing yourself, but if you feel ready and feel compelled to get some words down. And you do talk about journaling. And so journaling is a really helpful tool. And it's also really nice because you can get the pen and paper down too. If you do the old-fashioned way of journaling with the pen and paper, that can be really nice. So I would say that in sort of straining, challenging times like a pandemic or anything that's going on in the world, that's challenging, you might feel absolutely exhausted. So don't pressure yourself, never pressure yourself to do things creatively, because often you'll then get frustrated with yourself and the work. But if you sort of feel that, yes, I think writing down my thoughts, writing down my ideas, writing down my anxieties, writing down helpful things for people, writing down tips or anything like that can be really good. It can be therapeutic, it can be cathartic, it can help you get control back with your thoughts around what's going on. So I would definitely recommend turning to a writing practice during this time. Yeah.
I love that. Now, you are, worldwide, people can connect with you. Have you noticed that there's an increase of people wanting to write their story?
There always seems to be people wanting to write their story or write their business book or write or blog. From my groups and my community and my newsletters and interest in the challenge, there hasn't been a major change. There's been a little bit of an increase, not a major drop by any means, but there's been a little increase. I think, I think that probably people just always do want to write and are interested in writing. So they're more, during a pandemic, they're even more compelled perhaps to write. So, yes, it was interesting actually when you go through something like this. I thought running my programs and running the challenge and all of that there might be a significant drop, like a lot of business owners have found. I thought a lot of people might be too fraught, too stressed, and that the writing would sort of be on the back burner. So I was expecting in my business a drop, and there was no drop. There was a slight increase. So that's quite interesting, isn't it?
Absolutely.
In terms of interest, in terms of people wanting to express themselves.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Well, I'm really glad that business is going well for you. That's always what we say here too. Support your local business, support the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You know, that is really the only way we're going to get the economy, the world economies back into a balanced and healthy state. Now, did you find that do they know what a nonfiction is versus a memoir? Or is that something that you sort of have to guide people through?
Yes, there's often quite a bit of confusion around memoir versus nonfiction because they're both nonfiction. So, because they're both non-fiction, that can confuse people. But they are very specific sort of genres, if you like, because memoir comes from the French word memory. And being where you are, you might speak French or have people around you who do. Is that, so you guys are a lot more across the French than me. But I have been told that memoir comes from the French word memory. So when you're doing memoir, you are actually doing that. You're doing your memories. And so the way to remember what the difference is that memoir is about a person. It's about you. It's often written in first person. And the subject matter is a person. And with nonfiction, pure nonfiction, the subject matter is usually a topic, a subject, grief, real estate, travel, cooking, it's a subject matter rather than a person. And then but where it gets confusing is with nonfiction, you will often weave in personal stories. So you weave in personal bits of memoir that relate directly to that. So if you're writing about weddings because you're a marriage celebrant and you're taking people through the process of what happens, you might weave in little personal stories about your wedding and about what you arranged on the day and all of that. So that's, I think that's why people get confused, but that's basically what they are.
Thank you so much for explaining that. And as you were talking, I remember a big truck with a hole in the bottom, as you explained in your book. And I remembered a beautiful yellow dress that you wanted to be a princess dress. So
Yeah.
it's so true. Weaving that in really connects you to your audience. It's like, I know so much more about you, right? And I think like having that emotional connection when we speak about our stories, even if it's memoir or just straight nonfiction on a how-to level, it does connect emotionally. And is that something that most authors find, if you're a first-time author, that's sort of like a challenge to really discover your inner voice, to discover that, how am I going to connect to people emotionally? My story is not that interesting.
Yes, it's again is quite divided. When I see people come through my programs and then work with them in a more in-depth way individually, it is quite divided. I see that people who come from blogging or people who have journaled quite a lot, who are very sort of connected to their own first-person position. So I experience the world this way, and I do this, and I do that. They tend to find the creative writing and the personal story and the memoir component quite easy. They sort of have leaned into that voice a lot, and they've sort of worked that writing muscle. People who, and this is general, but it's what I see, people who tend to come from more focused on their business, and they might have written reports, e-newsletters, just sort of updates and bulletins, and they want to write about a subject matter like leadership or something. They are really good at getting the content down like you would for a program or laying modules out. But they tend to find the creative writing and the first person position and the sort of exposure of their feelings and emotions and the imagery and the animation and the engagement that's more from creative writing. They tend to find that harder. Yeah, so those are the two groups. And so you find that you need to sort of, I often find I do creative writing practices with those people to loosen up that voice. And with the people who are more always in the first person, I have to rein them in a bit and also get them to focus on, sort of some more strategy. So I'm using elements for both.
Right.
Yeah.
So and it's finding that perfect balance, right, between
Well, yes.
connecting and
Yeah.
actually saying what you want to say in a productive manner, right? Oh, I
Mm.
love that. I love that. Now, would you recommend that, say I have this idea, I really want to write a book. Would you recommend starting a blog? Would you recommend journaling? Like, you mentioned, that's the creative part of it. Would anybody benefit from that? Just to get it started?
Yes, it's definitely better for you if you have been getting in the groove of your writing. So yes, maybe there's free courses, maybe something like my challenge, maybe journaling or blogging or starting an e-newsletter, or even in your social posts, writing things that are a bit longer and allow your writing voice to explore a bit more. So if you post an image, maybe don't just do an emoji, explore it a bit. So sort of say, here I am, I went for a walk in the garden and I noticed this and this and this, and this made me think about this and this. So you can actually almost on a daily or weekly basis with the online world we live in, you can be exploring and working and navigating your writing voice quite easily. So yes, I always say to people, write quite a bit, and then at some point you will feel that you've sort of got a lot of ideas and a lot of things you want to say or that you want to compile together, and you want to put it into a nice 100-page book or 200-page book. Yes, so yeah, definitely right, and don't hold back thinking that your writing is not good enough. Just write 50 words of something about your walk or about your day, and that's a good kickoff.
I love that. I never thought of that, to just have your social media that you're already doing. And I was thinking, like, even if you're a technical minded person, or even if you're a business owner, I was thinking botany. If you see this flower, you can tell people online, this flower is this genus and it comes from here and this is what it does. Like, it would be interesting, to know. It doesn't always have to be that personal, right? Like you said, finding that balance.
Yes, because a lot of people don't like being too personal. They find social media quite, sort of kind of intrusive and quite exposing. And I'm actually very private. I've got quite an introvert part of my personality. So I'm a mix. I'm a mix. But on social media, yeah, most of what I talk about is the world and things that are going on around me, and sort of ideas about yes, this day or this book or this little adventure or something. It's not all about me and here's my family and here's that. You don't have to be you don't have to be all showing everyone everything if that doesn't feel right for you. You know what I mean?
I think that is the perfect advice for social media. It's like, try and be authentic. If you do not want to share what you had for lunch, take a picture and describe the salad in terms of its molecular structure, if that is,
Exactly. Yes.
let go on
Yeah,
the.
no, totally
Oh,
agree. Mm.
I love that. I love that. Now, in terms of this pandemic, we are here, it's going to change people's lives. And I am sure, like, once, things return to where we can see each other again, and life's never going to be the same. We've said that before. We sort of had to relinquish control, which we never really had in the first place. But what if you wanted to just indulge us? Spitball some ideas on titles. If somebody were to write, you know, something about this pandemic we went through.
Yes, well, oh gosh, titles. I mean, you can be funny. You could be funny and do something like Housebound or something, right? Um, or you could be sort of more serious. I mean, I think that it depends on your personality and on your take on life. So if you are more serious and want to talk about the sort of the challenges that we face and the important things we need to acknowledge, then yes, you would maybe call it something like challenging times, or is this the way of, is this our future or something? But yeah, if you are sort of more humorous about things, you might go with the, the mime sort of stuck, getting unstuck, or housebound, or, something like that. If these walls could talk or something.
Right.
Um,
And I just thought of one, if somebody is listening and they want to do this, it's cooking in COVID, if they can tell us, because I read somewhere that sourdough recipes have skyrocketed. That's like one of the biggest trends. So I'm like, please tell me how to cook a chicken 7 ways, right? Or 20 ways.
Brilliant. Yes. And so maybe the sourdough was big in Canada. It was the banana bread here. I don't know if you do banana bread, but here it was all about everyone's in COVID and everyone's cooking banana bread. So
that sounds more delicious, to be honest.
It is great. I don't know if you have it there. It's wonderful. You get, when the bananas get too far gone, and then you turn it into a bread and lots of butter. It's very nice.
I have to say, unfortunately, the Canadian climate is not conducive to growing bananas. So by the time you get the bananas, it's like avocados. You have about 15 minutes before it turns. So, yes.
Oh, goodness me. Yes, of course. Not the tropical. Yeah. Right.
So sourdough it is.
Yeah. The sourdough life, how to not be sour and make sourdough, because in COVID you could have a sour feeling about life. So make some sourdough instead. So, look, there's many things that you could do during a pandemic. So just, again, getting creative, bouncing around ideas like we are, get creative. Think about whether you're serious or funny. And titles are always one of the hardest things people battle with, and they're also not copyright. So therefore, if someone else has your title that you want, you can actually call it that. If you go on Amazon, you can call your book. It's not copyright. Yeah. So
I had no idea. Oh, that's interesting. And that's international law. So if I want to call my book The Secret, it will be fine?
Yes. Yeah. I know, it's weird. It's weird. And that's why quite a lot of books, there are books out there where you think, oh, that's a great title. You look it up and there are several books called that. So it does happen where quite a lot of books have the same title.
But I think, as you and I were discussing, there's so many more creative ideas, then we don't have to take somebody else's title, like make it your own.
Yes. Yeah, you don't. No, that's exactly right.
Oh,
there's always an angle. Yeah. That's why it's fun. That's why it's fun. Yeah,
exactly. And I'm not sure if writing a book is the same as screenplay, because when I used to write screenplays, you write this and you have a working title, and then when you write the last sentence, you're like, this title makes no sense. I need to go back and change it, right? So even if we have working titles in our head, that might not be the final one that we have, right?
Yes, because when you start your first draft, that process might take you, 30 days, like in a boot camp like mine. It might take you 3 months, like if you're doing one-to-one work with a book coach like me or someone else. Might take you 6 months, a year. It can, that first draft can take, some people take 10 years and it's never become a book. They need to move. But yes, whenever you start, you will pop in a working title and a working subtitle, just to kind of give it a bit of a frame up. And it might end up being the book name, but usually by 3 months, 6 months or whatever down the track and through editing, you definitely will change it around. You might ask friends and family, does that make sense? Do you understand what that means? What do you think? So the work, people get caught up on that title, but you don't need to. It can it will iterate throughout the process.
Right. And I think an important thing too is, because I'm not born Canadian, so some of the things that I would have called a working title, if I have to do it in Canada, it might not have the same reception as it would elsewhere in the world. So that's something to keep in mind too, now that everything is so global, with a global distribution network and things like that too, right?
Oh yes, yeah, and that's why you also, your editor will ask you, do you want Canadian English? Do you want American English? you know, what do you want? You have to think about where it will be distributed, you know, who your main readership is, or whether you want to go with you know, where you come from. So yeah, and so that's right. And so some words, you know, certain countries don't use or don't understand. And so, I mean, mine are usually American English, because that's where, you know, Amazon and all these big places are mainly distributing the book. So the main buyers are in the States. But yeah, you do have to be mindful of different words and different funny things, you know.
Right. So there's
Yeah.
no use in most of the words, favorites, and, you know, I'm just thinking the American English there.
Yeah, because where were you born?
In South Africa. So it's
Oh,
British English.
okay.
So
Yes, it's British
Canada's
English.
easier. Right, right.
Yeah, that's right. So there's a lot of views that are sadly sort of just been thrown to the side. Yeah,
And done with.
that's right.
Exactly.
Colour and
Now, Emma,
yeah.
what if I really, really would like to write a book, but I only have one idea? I've heard rumors that says I need, you know, at least a series. Now, we can talk about publishing after, but I know, you know, certain published houses are like, okay, so this is your idea, and what's the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Is that something that should challenge writers? Is it okay just to have one idea?
Well, with fiction, they often want the series. So the series has become a real thing in the fiction landscape with self-publishing and publishers, because there's a whole ecosystem with fiction where you sort of get on this treadmill thing, and the readers want another one, and so that's a whole world there. And so fiction is like another land. So, you know, if you're interested in fiction, self-publishing, series, Kindle, the Amazon world of that, you know, you can just go down a rabbit hole and investigate all of that. Um, never get your book written, just investigate all of that. Oh dear. But when you come to fiction, it is different, and no, you don't need a series. There's a lot less pressure. You also don't have to be so focused on the short-term, quick burst launch, which then dies after 6 weeks. You can continue to go on about your non-fiction book for a long time. If it's evergreen, maybe 2 years. You know, you can always be talking about it while you're writing your next one, if you want to write a next one. So yeah, with non-fiction self-publishing, if you have one good solid idea, you can just release that, and you can be like, yep, tick, that's the book that I wrote, and I loved writing it, and that's what I wanted to say, and that was the one book. So yeah, so it's quite a different ballgame, fiction to non-fiction. And with publishers, traditional publishers, when it comes to non-fiction, again, a real variety. You know, it all depends on what the publisher, who the publisher is. Yeah, you know, and who you are and the expectations. But quite often, you know, a one book deal contract will happen, and then, you know, what happens after that, who knows? So yeah, it's just a very different landscape between fiction and non-fiction.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, because I think that is something that people can say, you know, oh, I don't have plenty of ideas. I only have this one big idea. And then that's wonderful. Just write it. Just, you know, contact Emma and start writing it. I think that's most important. Now, in terms of that self-judgment, because I'm a perfectionist and I have OCD, so I know, you know, a lot of people, that could be a stumbling block for them, just even starting, and I know, you know, previously you said, just write that 50 words, start doing that. But is there like a trick for that judgment part that, you know, you can help us with?
Yes, well, the writer's block is a thing, you know, that people throw around, and again, that can be another thing that we we say to ourselves so that we can either get out of it or procrastinate or something. But it also can be a real thing, you know. You really can be blocked due to things like you know, depressed about your creative work, or you've sort of hit a wall and you feel like you've got no creative ideas. Perfectionism is another one. And look, you can go into the whole psychological thing and the depth of that around, you know, self-worth and confidence and, you know, have you published things in the past that got critiqued? You know, so there's all these things that you can investigate yourself as to why you might be holding yourself back, or why there might be a lot of critical inner dialogue or self-talk or judgment. You can navigate that. And in fact, journaling about that, or, you know, writing about that can be really helpful. And you just pose the question. You say, why am I procrastinating so much? And then you just sit there and you just see what comes out. You never know. And if you allow yourself to write for long enough, because the superficial stuff is like, oh, I haven't done the laundry and, you know, it's that. But when you get deeper, it might be down to some real stuff, you know, because in grade 5, the teacher told me that I was no good at writing, you know, so you'll get deeper and deeper into the stuff. And then to sort of help you move through that, one of the things I say to writers is that you're a contributor to the conversation. And this is an idea that can shift from, rather than thinking, oh gosh, you know, I've got to write this amazing book and I've got to be the next Brene Brown and I've got to get it out there, you know, and I'm not that person and I'm not a PhD and who am I? I mean, I'm just me and just living in Sydney and I don't know that I should really bother. You know, you can really, you know, squash yourself down by seeing who you think you should be, and sort of knowing or feeling that you're not, you see. So all of that. Whereas if you say, I'm just one voice talking about this topic, grief or parenting or divorce, or, you know, I'm just one person here out of a whole raft of voices, and I'm going to add my little slice in. And I'm a contributor to that conversation at large. And yeah, some people won't agree with my take and some people will, and that's fine. And I'm just offering my piece forward, and you're just putting your piece into the space. And that really does help, and it takes the weight and the strain off, because your experiences about that topic 100% will help a certain group of people who are needing to know about that topic. And that's why you need many voices, because things are written in all different ways. And so therefore readers want to read things and have the opportunity to read things that are written in different ways. And so your voice is one that will connect with them, some of them.
That is so empowering. Thank you. And it's so true. Like, even if you think of the books that you have read, it could be the same topic, it could be the same theme,
Yeah.
but in every book, there's one little slice that you're like, oh, that's unique, that's different. And that is that person's voice. Oh,
Yes.
I love that. And I think too, you know, especially now, like I've been reading so much and it sort of takes you away from where you are right now. So we have that opportunity when we write our story, is like you said, to help a certain group of people, to help that one person, because they might feel, you know, the exact same way you do. I just love that. Thank you.
Yes. And often readers, if they are at a point in their lives where they're interested in something specific, right? So say they're a new mum, or, you know, they're moving or something. If they're reading about something specific, they will often read quite a few books, and they'll listen to podcasts as well. They're not just going to read one book. They'll often buy a selection of a few books on that subject matter. So they're interested in the different voices and the different experiences that people have had.
I love that. And especially bringing it back to nonfiction. So, you know, what might have worked for you might not have worked for the next person. So even if they buy, you know, they've read 5 before and it didn't work for them, but your strategy might just work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why you have to put your voice forward. Because I always think, if it's only helping, 10 people, 100, might be more, whatever. Even if it's only helping 5. it's about helping. It's, writing helps people. It really helps them transform. It gives them ideas. So therefore holding the stuff in, and saying, oh, I'm not really good enough to write the book, is that helping? It's just no anyone. So, you do have to, yes, it's sort of like you need to, if you feel compelled to write the book or write quite a lot, there's a reason why you feel compelled to do that. So therefore, you need to do it.
Sounds like a Nike ad. Just do it. Just do it. People need to hear your voice.
Yeah. If you get that feeling, then there's a reason. There's yeah.
Right. Oh, I absolutely love that. That just makes so much sense. And I think, like what we've discussed is, most of the voices are in our head. So once we write them out, it gets it out and it gets it out in the world. And I always think from a growth mindset, it's if you keep everything to yourself, you as well, you stay small. Everything stays small. Your world stays small. You stay small. So the more you can expand and the more you can share, the bigger you're going to get, the bigger growth you're going to experience, and the world is going to expand because of it, right?
Oh yes, yeah, and it's and also the more that you write, the more that you sort of explore what you know and yourself, and you sort of think, well, I didn't really know that I knew that much about that, or that or that I thought that way. You sort of, it's very interesting, even just sort of doing it for yourself, just like what you say, journaling, just sort of journaling and getting stuff down. You really do explore your own thoughts and ideas, and that is a really cool thing to do. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think once you have it all down in a journal, people can contact you and you can say, all right, well, this is great. You already have most of it. Let's just put it in format and send it to the press.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, while I was reading your book, which is
Mm.
awesome, by the way, and I recommend everybody buy it. We will put the link in the description.
Yes. Yeah,
Creative spaces. So us being home, I have 2 small children, so I am also a teacher, which is fun in a certain way, but it also has its challenges. So one thing that we really had to do is create an arts and crafts station. So I made it in my kitchen, and it's so funny because when I read your book, and exactly to our previous point, you're going to write something that's going to resonate with somebody in divine timing. I set up this and I posted it actually on Facebook or on Instagram today.
Oh
So I'll
yes.
post it again. It is the funnest space in our house. And I know CBC also did an article saying people are restructuring their homes also for safety's sake, so that it's compartmentalized so that they can clean and have more hand washing stations. But that creativity, that creative space to incorporate it in your house, that was so incredible. Would you mind just telling us a little bit more about that?
Yes, well, a lot of writers have used rituals, and the environment is kind of like a ritual as well. So it's about thinking for you when I write, and when I'm writing my book, or when I'm journaling, or when I'm blogging. How do I want to feel, and how can I make this environment that I'm in feel right for me? And you might even find that if you're writing your e-newsletter for your community, you actually want to be in a cafe. Maybe that makes you sort of feel a certain way. And then if you're writing your book, maybe you want to sort of have some artwork around you, or, be in a different part of the house that feels a bit more, I don't know, nurturing or warm and fuzzy or something, so depending on what you're writing, your environment may or may not impact you. Some people might say, oh no, it doesn't matter, I can have washing there, and I can write the next great American novel with, but someone, for a lot of people, they need this kind of to sort of feel into the environment and the space. So I have found that people do like that. So you might have you might want candles around. I've, in this little space here, there's some artwork. There's actually some crystals here. because they're pretty. And there's also, I like miniature things. So there's a miniature bookcase there. Look at that.
That's adorable.
Yeah. So I find that really cute, and it makes me laugh when I look at it. It's like all these tiny little, and then I like tea. So that reminds me that I like tea. And then I kind of like the blue colour. So I've got the books there. And so, you can just have things around you, and they might change. And it just sort of sets the scene for you when you start your writing. And I mean, writers have talked about, if they're writing sort of something that's a bit more spicy or something, they might put on their high heels, or they, if they're writing something funny, they might put on a funny hat. Yeah. Or and music, some authors will listen to waves or whatever. Like if you're writing about meditation stuff, you might want to have some waves on. Or if you're writing a children's book, you might want the Wiggles on in the background. So you're doing these things to sort of support and sort of cultivate this creative environment for whatever you're writing, and whatever feels good to help you get into the groove. And and the more creative you are, whatever, and that's why I did that list in the book, because it's your space. So I'm not going to say to you, these are the creative things, candles and flowers or something. No, that might not be your jam at all. So it's whatever's creative for you and what makes you feel more open and receptive and ready for the words to come.
That is wonderful. Thank you. Yes. And I'm just thinking, while you were talking about creative differences, if you go to our basement, it's full of Pokemon and Lego and video games. And I'm like, I would not be able to work in that type of creative environment, but other people in the house love it. And that is their creative space, right? I'm much more of the candle crystal, some greenery, plants,
Yes.
Absolutely. And it's so important, I think, even from a mental health perspective, the environment and how it influences your mood, the environment and how it influences your mental capacity, your intellectual capacity, all those things, it's that holistic way. So if you really want to get your message out, and if you want to connect to your core self, setting up that outside environment so that it can reflect the internal environment, I think it's so important. Thank you. That is really amazing.
Yes. Yeah, and have fun with it. Yeah, have fun with it.
Right. Yeah, she's Pokemon. It'll.
Just see. I mean, you just never know. If you have the Lego there, you might look at it and it might make some story spring to life. It might make you think about joining things or not. Who knows? Yeah. So just change it up and declutter. Get things out that if you hate something that you've got in there, just get it out.
Right.
Look at it. Yeah.
Oh.
Marie Kondo.
Yes, and there's an article I read too, and it's the same with musical instruments. I read that if you have a piano in your house, which we have, and we have it in our living room, they said if you put it in the basement, that's like really far away. You're not really integrating the music as part of your house. So if you think of your creative spaces, not necessarily the space that you're going to sit down and write, but perhaps creating these little creative areas in your house that reminds you that creativity is actually a part of your house, and it's a part of your dwelling, and it's a part of your conscious movement in the house too.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's brilliant, Christine. Yes. Yeah, integrating the creative as elements, yes, right through the whole house. Yeah, not sort of having it in one spot, but having it right through the house. Yes, because I think if you bring in things that are creative or remind you of that, you're just more fertile to thinking of things and coming up with ideas. So yeah, brilliant. Totally agree. Yeah.
Thank you. And from my personal experience, my best notes are on grocery lists for some reason. Like that little scrap of paper, I'm like, oh, this is a great idea on the grocery list. So if you get into the habit of writing everywhere too, that is so helpful, right?
Yes, yeah, and then just somehow collate the little bits so that you don't lose them. Have a little box or something that you can pop them in. Yeah, because definitely the ideas, because they just spring, don't they? You don't know when they're going to come.
Right.
So, always do it.
And I love that you're saying, collect your thoughts, put them in a box, and this is why you are the writing coach, because you know how to take people's ideas, help them put it into, a great format so that it could be ready. Now, if you don't mind, Emma, please tell us where people can find you, what you're up to, about your book, promo.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So this is the shameless plug bit. Well, you can go to the website, emmafranklinbell.com. So it's quite easy, just myname.com. And then you can get the book there. So there's the digital download version, which you can get, or you can get the paperback. And also probably if you look on Amazon and those places, it's also on there. And if you go on the website, there is a little quiz that you can do that might be interesting to you, which is all about your connection style. And so that helps you with your writing as well. So you might want to do that. So you can do that. And then you can follow me on Instagram as well. And, at different times of the year, I run the 5-day book planning challenge. So if you are, if you're sort of wanting to get kick-started on writing your book, and you're a coach or someone who's, wanting to get your business out there and your brand stronger, that could be really good for you. So you can go to the Facebook group to join that, Become an Author 2020, I think it's called, because Become an Author was taken. So it's like Become an Author 2020, I think. Yeah. But anyway, if you're on one of those channels, you'll be able to find out when I'm releasing those things. So it's exciting.
That is very exciting. And like I said in the beginning, from personal experience, I would absolutely recommend it. It's just so nice to, put things into a perspective, get the ball rolling, get your thoughts flowing. Because I think when you and I chatted, it's like, oh, I have like 20 ideas. So
yes. Oh, yeah, lots. That's right. Lots of ideas. And that's why, yes, you might find that you end up with a series, but you always want to just go with that first idea that you've got, get something out there, get something moving and published.
Yes. Oh, well, absolutely. Well, Emma, thank you so much for joining us today. And I will put all of the links in the description below. And do follow Emma. It is fantastic to see you on Instagram. I like the naps part too.
Oh,
how you like naps.
Yes. I do. I love naps. I need to talk about naps more. Could do a little book on naps. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Oh, well, Emma, thank you so much for your time. I hope everybody is healthy and safe where you are. And we will chat again real soon.
Great. Thanks, Christine. Loved being on chatting with you. See you.